The First World War was a cataclysmic event that saw the participation of 32 countries and the deaths of more than 38 million people. But there are some stories that the history books couldn't quite cover, stories that have been puzzling academics ever since. So stay tuned for a spooky ghost ship, a vicious sea monster, and a mysterious horde of military angels as we take a look at 10 unsolved mysteries of World War I. Number 10. The Lost Treasure of the Tsars. In the early 20th century, the 300-year-old Russian royal family was facing several serious threats. Firstly, there was the shadow of World War I looming over them, a conflict that would eventually claim approximately 3 million Russian lives. Secondly, there was a growing discontent among their own people, which culminated in the revolutions in 1917. To protect his country's assets, Tsar Nicholas II ordered a huge quantity of the nation's gold reserves to be hidden. This has been estimated at 73% of Russia's gold, worth approximately $60 billion today. A popular legend is that the Tsar ordered those who hid the treasure to be immediately executed, so only he knew where it was. When he and his family were killed by communist revolutionaries in 1918, the secret died with him. To this day, no one knows where it is. Theories about where it could be have included the idea that it's stored in a series of secret vaults scattered across Siberia, or that it was sunk to the bottom of Lake Baikal. Considering that Lake Baikal contains more water than all of the North American Great Lakes combined, if this were true, it would be very unlikely for the gold to ever be found. Number 9. Who killed the Red Baron? Manfred von Richthofen, also known as the Red Baron, gained a widespread reputation as one of the deadliest fighter pilots of the First World War. Officially, he was credited with 80 air combat kills. For many of the Allied troops, the Red Baron was the face of the enemy, thus making him a hugely popular target. As a result, his death in April 1918 spawned a great deal of debate, with numerous individuals laying claim to being the one who brought him down. The most popular theory is that he was killed by Captain Roy Brown of the RAF, but critics say that his account of events is suspiciously lacking and doesn't quite tie up with eyewitness interpretations. Another idea is that he was shot down by a lone anonymous rifleman. Books, documentaries, and films have all been made discussing who fired that fatal shot, but the identity of the true assailant remains a mystery. Number 8. What happened to the crew of the Sabrina? The story of the Sabrina is so intriguingly haunting that it has gained a reputation as World War I's ghost ship. The Sabrina was a large sailing barge that, during the war, was deployed to haul coal between England and France. On the 17th of September 1917, the boat was found beached on Roselle Point in France. Apart from some slightly tangled sails, she was in pristine condition. The bizarre thing was that the crew was nowhere to be seen, and they would never be seen again. One possible explanation for the creepy abandoned ship was that the Sabrina had been caught in a ferocious storm, which had washed the crew overboard. Alternatively, the crew could have been attacked by German U-boats, who were known to target supply ships in the English Channel. However, the lack of damage to the boat seems to imply that neither of these explanations could be true. Number 7. Who killed Private John Parr? "17-year-old John Parr received the not-so-enviable accolade of being the first soldier in the British Commonwealth to be killed by enemy action in World War I, but the circumstances around the death are notably suspicious. Private Parr was a reconnaissance cyclist, stationed near the village of Bétigny in northern France. According to official reports, Parr was killed in 1914 when he ran into a German unit and was shot in the ensuing skirmish. But this seems peculiar, as the Germans were not known to be in that particular area until months later. Not only this, but Parr's death was not officially acknowledged until more than 6 months afterwards. This implies that perhaps British authorities were trying to cover up something more incriminating. One possibility is that Parr was embarrassingly killed in the crossfire between unfamiliar British and Belgian troops who mistook each other for Germans. Parr's distraught mother regularly wrote to the British military for answers, but sadly they never came. Number 6. Was a German submarine attacked by a sea monster? War was chaotic and confusing, and as a result, tales of supernatural and mythical forces were often put forward as explanations for events that soldiers struggled to explain. This was most likely the case with the bizarre events of April 1918, when a German submarine was allegedly attacked by a colossal sea creature. A British patrol boat was sailing the North Atlantic when it came across a German submarine floating on the surface. In order to investigate, the Britons cautiously approached the submarine, at which point the extremely frightened German crew immediately abandoned ship. According to the crew, they had briefly resurfaced when an extremely large, strange beast with tentacles and huge teeth climbed onto the side of the ship. The beast was similar to the legendary Kraken that is featured in nautical mythology since the 13th century. Whether this was some kind of shared delusion, debris from an ocean storm, a giant octopus, or even a real Kraken, what happened is likely to remain a mystery. Number 5. The mystery of the 1919 Kindle Park mutiny. In a cemetery in a small village in Wales lie the graves of 5 Canadian soldiers who fought in World War I. Nothing unusual about that, but what is bizarre about the deaths of these soldiers is that they died shortly after the war finished, and they were not killed in combat, but apparently during a military mutiny in 1919. The mutiny took place in Kindle Park, a military complex that was home to approximately 15,000 Canadian troops. It's thought that the riots were sparked by poor living conditions with limited food rations, overcrowded dorms, and no heating. Aside from this, very little is known about the Kindle Park riots. Historians are perplexed as to what actually took place, who was involved, and how the events culminated in the deaths of these soldiers. No one was ever convicted for killing the men, and it doesn't feature in much official documentation. Perhaps something more sinister actually took place, and we'll never find out what. Number 4. What happened to Blak? When Hungarian tinsmith Blak was conscripted to fight in the First World War, he left behind a dark secret. At his home in the town of Kinkota, Kiss's landlord discovered 24 dead bodies, all but one of which were female. The bodies had been strangled, pickled in alcohol, and sealed in metal drums. It emerged that Kiss had been placing lonely hearts ads in local newspapers, luring rich women in with promises of marriage, and then murdering them for their money. The search to find and arrest Kiss was complicated by the chaos of war and his relatively common name. He was nearly impossible to trace. Conflicting reports came in saying that he had fallen victim to yellow fever or had been sent to fight at the front. The one time authorities came close to him, tracking him down to a hospital, he switched a dead man's body for his own and made his escape. Despite the police's efforts, Blak never faced justice for his crimes. Number 3. Who was the mysterious JM? Life in World War I trenches was tough, and many soldiers took to painting as a much-needed distraction. The artworks produced by painters such as Paul Nash have become some of the most important insights into the horrors of war through the eyes of those who've lived it. Toward the end of the 20th century, a sketchbook of 130 watercolour and ink images was discovered in the archives of the University of Victoria in Canada. The paintings demonstrated extraordinary talent and were very moving depictions of war, death, and religion. Sadly, the artist who created these pieces is almost completely unknown. All that has been confirmed about him is that his initials were JM, he was based in France and Belgium, he had a daughter called Adele, and seeing as one painting was dated from 1920, he survived the war. Number 2. The Angels of Mons. In August 1914, barely a month into World War I, the British and French troops were on the back foot, surrounded by a massive German army just outside the Belgian city of Mons. The German army, 3 times the strength of the Allied troops, looked certain to annihilate their foes, when their advance suddenly halted and the British and French troops were able to retreat. Following this miraculous escape, an intriguing legend grew around the events in Mons, that the soldiers had been protected by some kind of divine force. This was first alluded to in letters written by Brigadier General John Charteris, who said, "The angel of the Lord on the traditional white horse and clad all in white with a flaming sword, faced the advancing Germans." Charteris was just recording the accounts of those who allegedly witnessed this divine event, but some people genuinely believed it to be real. The idea of the Angel of Mons captured the imagination of thousands around the world, and was mentioned in numerous contemporary newspapers. While it is likely the result of overactive imaginations in the heat of battle, it seems as though we will never know what truly happened on that fateful day. Number 1. What happened to the USS Cyclops? When it disappeared in March 1918, the loss of the USS Cyclops became the greatest loss of life that the US Navy had ever suffered in a single incident. 309 people had been on board the military cargo ship when it vanished without a trace en route from Barbados to Maryland. no wreckage or bodies were ever found. There were some alleged sightings of the USS Cyclops off the American coast, but none of these seem to match up with the intended journey of the ship. Theories are abundant as to what could have happened. These range from the idea that it sank due to technical defects and overloading, to the thought that it could have been the victim of a hostile attack by enemy forces. Adding to the popular intrigue around this perplexing mystery is the fact that it disappeared within the so-called Bermuda Triangle, where numerous other ships and aircraft have vanished under similarly puzzling circumstances. Without a shipwreck to investigate, it is unlikely that we will ever know what happened to this unfortunate crew.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, you might want to check out 10 Unsolved Mysteries of the Bible. Really good stuff. Controversial, maybe a little bit, but definitely worth watching. So check that out, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.